We're talking about how to notate syncopated rhythm. That's more difficult than we would like it to be with traditional notation. But maybe we can find a system by which something that's syncopated could make sense. We know the traditional notation, right? It starts with an eighth note, and then there's a quarter note and a half note, and we'll say a dotted half note also. In which case the quarter note gets 1 beat, the half note gets 2, the dotted half note gets 3, and we'll say a whole note gets 4, and the eighth note gets half a beat. So doing all this, once we have all that, we pretty much have the tools mathematically by which to come up with any given number of how long a note lasts. And we can continue to divide it if we need to further divide. But though we know that, if we had a nice simple tune that wasn't syncopated, like Mary Had a Little Lamb, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm tapping out the sort of perceived beat that we have, and every time I tap, I'm singing a note. That's pretty straightforward. But what if I had a rhythm that went bum ba 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 ba. Mary had a lamb. I said that Mary had a lamb. All right, so I've got the same words, but the rhythm came out different. We might say short, long, 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 longer. Short, 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 long, 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 longer. And that might tell us something. In fact, maybe I could just come up with a system whereby I could, instead of using traditional notation like this, I could just email to myself some symbols. I'll just say an eighth note would be a comma. It sort of makes sense. And a quarter note would be a period. And then we'll say a dotted quarter note would be a comma plus period plus a comma. That would be, and then we could have a colon, 2 periods. So that'd be worth 1/2 of a beat, 1, 1.5, and 2 beats. Or depending on, like this is worth 1, and that's 2, and that's 3, and that's 4. In any case, we have different values of notes there simply by using punctuation. That would be pretty simple. And if I hear this rhythm, then I might notate it this way: bum 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 bum. All right, so I've used all my different values, and I send myself this little note to remind myself of how things go: short, long, 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 longer. Short, 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 long, 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 longer. All right, it's not totally accurate, but it at least makes use of those kinds of things. It would be more accurate if I could mark, say on a graph, where each of the beats are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. So every one of these squares, the vertical lines, I have as being a beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. And when I hear this rhythm, I recognize that it goes 1 and 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So the first beat is short, and the second one is longer. Ba 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 ba. However long that went. Then bum 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 bum. That would be kind of a handy way to write. We don't always have the advantage of graph paper, but we sometimes use MIDI events to notate this way, and I think it's an accurate way of notating. Maybe someday this will be a more common thing, because it could tell you both pitch up and down, as well as how long each of the notes are, and if these notes are all the same rhythm, same length, even though they don't line up with a beat at their beginning, nonetheless, it's easy to recognize them. All right, now, anyway, so that's system number one. System number two, both of some use, but not a great amount because they're not universal yet. So let's go back to this traditional notation and see if we can write this pattern that I just said. We're going to be in 4/4 time, and I'm going to go ahead and put a bar line at the beginning. Then we're going to have 4 bars worth of music. So we have that first note, which is going to be an 8th note. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, it doesn't so much matter how it lines up horizontally. Actually, I put the note here. It really ought to be right on top of that line, bump, because that's where the downbeat is. But of course, then it would be hard to see. So I put it right there, and everything else is a quarter note. Bum, 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 bum. And that goes to a longer thing. And then I have 3 8th notes. Bump, bump, bump. Short note. Bump, 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 bump. And all right. Very nice. Now I'm just going to see how I'm doing. I have 1/2 of a beat. 1, 1, 1, 1. My problem is I'm in 4/4 time, right? And I have 1, 2, 3, 4.5 beats. So what went wrong here? What went wrong is that needs to then be an 8th note that ties to something. Okay, so now I have 4 beats in this first measure. That's handy. And I put an 8th breath there. That worked out in the second measure. And I'm going to have to do the same thing with the last measure. There we go. Put a little quarter rest. Okay. Now, everything adds up to 4 quarter notes in each measure. I haven't told you anything you don't already know. One of the challenges, however, is we have to show, if 8th note is our shortest note, we have to show 2 levels above that. In other words, we have to show beats 1 and 3, and where they show. So since we have to show beats 1 and 3, this note right here splits that up, and what we'll have to do is turn it into an 8th note and tie it to an 8th note, and that way beat 3 happens right there. We can see it. 1. So when we add it up, it's 1/2 plus 1 plus 1/2. That's the first 2 beats, and then the second 2 beats in that part of the measure. It's messy, but accurate, and it's the system that we've inherited. So here it is again in that third measure. We've got 2 beats and 2 beats, and therefore beat 3 downbeat is right there. The math of music is so complicated because beat 3, anyway, we're talking halves and numbers and all that kind of thing. Hopefully this makes sense to you. If not, then try watching it again. So we have the dots and dashes, we have commas and periods, we have MIDI events, and then we have traditional notation, all of which are increasingly accurate ways of representing rhythm that is syncopated.